So I think today we're going to talk about one, the heart, love, and what it really means to, because a lot of you said, I have a closed heart. And I raised my hand along with that. You know, I'm a heart coach. I give heart talks. I've dedicated the last probably 3 years of my life specifically to studying and practicing, experiencing what it's like to be in connection from a heart space. And even with all of that, because it's not about the tools, it's not whether you're doing a bunch of yoga or all this other stuff, that's great. It gives you a moment to pause. Same as my silence. That's what a tool is. A tool is there just to give you the moment to pause, to come into an awareness, into a consciousness of what's happening in this moment. Now, when you do that, something comes up. And it's all the stuff that you bury deep down inside that you're like, I don't want to deal with this right now. And so you put it down so that you don't have to deal with it when it comes up again. And then it does, because you're doing these tools and these practices, and you have this desire to open your heart. What if I told you your heart's already open? That it never was closed. See, the greatest lesson that I learned out of my first year in silence, so I'm now in my second year of practicing this silent practice. The first time that I went in, it was because of heartbreak. This time it's because it's like cart overflowing. I can't help it. I want to get out there as much more as I can and get out of my head, so I just come into the heart. But that first time, it was because my heart had been shattered. It was one of my best years. I had just given a TEDx talk, and so my speaking career was really starting to launch off. I was in negotiations with the governor of Bali to do this big clean and green program. We were going to make Bali the first fully organic and conscious island of the world and make it a big example. Turned out he was just on a political campaign thing, and then he dropped it as soon as he got in office. But there was so much that was going on and so many things just really flourishing and blossoming for me. And at the time, my girlfriend, she came and she put the cherry on the top. And she said, I'm pregnant. And it's funny because I almost expected it. I knew it was going to happen. We had just begun a relationship. And when she said that, my heart just filled. And I thought, wow, this talk, this thing with the governor, all the things that I've done in the past, all the achievements that I might make in the future, they don't matter compared to the feeling that I have right now that I'm going to be a father. I'm going to bring something into this world and learn from it. Not so much me teach it. I knew, and I still do, that I get to learn from what comes into my life. And I always say this whenever I share this story, that with every up there is a down. It doesn't mean it's negative, it just means you have to learn how to fall with grace. And I had not. By the end of that year, my girlfriend had miscarried. She was about 3 months in. And somehow in those 3 months, in that cultivation of preparing, in that moving into a whole different space of my heart, it's almost like I'd been living in this mansion and I'd only been living in one room for a long time. And then when I found out that there was a bunch of other rooms, and I got really, really excited, and then I found out they were locked. I was like, damn it. So she lost the baby. It was devastating for both of us. And it ended up causing the breakup of the relationship. But mostly what it really caused was me to lose all confidence. Because I had built this sense that, wow, this is my purpose. It's solely this, to be a father, to be the best that I can in that. And all of a sudden that was taken away, and all that was left was, nope, sorry, you are not worthy for that yet, was the thought. And so I did what I felt was necessary, because I know human nature. We reach outward in order to try to fix what we don't sense within as being whole, or enough, or worthy. And I didn't want to do that. And so instead I went inward, and I spent 365 days silently observing. Now there was a catch to this though. Because while I did that, and this is where I say that the tools have one level that they get you to, but they don't take you to the next level, which is once you do those tools and stuff comes up, because you go inward and you're like, oh, look at all this stuff. Most of us go, ah, look at all this stuff. And I had gone in with an expectation that by the end of that year, 365 days, I would have discovered the answers to everything. Not just, to the world and the universe, but to love, to myself, to my confidence, to my ability not to fail. And so I thought, and this was again the story I made up in my head, that by the time I came out, I'd be back in a relationship with somebody who was probably going to be my partner for life, and again, another opportunity to have this child. Well, end of that year, I have about a week left. I'm single. And I'm thinking, crap, I just wasted a year. That sense came up in me again of, you just failed. And I got really judgmental about myself and about the world around me. It was really interesting because most of the year I'd been blissed out, seeing beauty everywhere. That last week I was like, you're ugly. And when I dropped back into that, because when we start to project outward and we start to notice ourselves judging, whether it's inward or outward, it's because there's something going on that we're stuck on a perspective with. And so I looked to see, okay, what's around this perspective? If I remove the mask of what I'm projecting here, what is it? And it came back to that idea that I had failed, that I hadn't discovered what I was looking for. And I remember this voice inside my head said, you were looking to discover something inward, but you can only discover things outward. I'll explain that. To discover means that you have to be seeking it, and it's something that comes upon you outwardly. But to uncover something is when you go inward. So I was doing it a little backwards, you see. I'd gone inward to discover when it doesn't work that way. And so my greatest insight of that first year in silence was that our wholeness, our passion, our purpose, everything that we're here in this world to do and to be can't be discovered. Because it's not going to be found outside of you, but it can be uncovered. So you say, I've got a closed heart. I'm trying to figure out how to open it back up. I need to do this, I need to do that. That's all outward. I'm telling you, your heart is full, complete, whole, open, radiant, ready. You just have some stories on top of it. We all do, and we're constantly moving with that. I used to always say that humans have 3 different layers to them. They've got the mask, and the mask is essentially how we relate to each other. It's the roles that we play, the identities, and the mask is interchangeable. We have many of them. We don't just play with one mask. We have like a whole pocket full of them. We interchange them all the time. It's like you're talking to somebody and you're in an argument. You're really heated, so that's the mask. It's the angry mask. Like, ah! Then the phone rings. You're like, can I call you back? Okay. The mask, very interchangeable. You can just switch it up. Beneath the mask is the story. Now, the story is everything you've ever experienced in your life, all your emotions, your values, your beliefs, anything that's been taught to you, anything that you've taught to others or that you've experienced and taught to yourself. All of that is your story. And it's constantly changing. It's all the time trying to find a balance of its duality. Because in every moment, that, which is just the expressions of life, is coming and going. And so it has this comparison element of duality. Because it's there, it's not there. It's this, it's not that. It's high, it's not low. It's all these different things. And so we're constantly maintaining that. Now the tools of consciousness, whether they're meditation or yoga or whatever you do, those are great for that layer. And that's why it's a practice, all those things, because you have to constantly do it throughout the rest of your life. Now, what a lot of people do, though, is they go, okay, I'm going to meditate so that I can reach enlightenment. I can get somewhere. Then they're really frustrated because they're like, why am I not getting there? Well, because it's not a tool to be used to get somewhere. It's a tool to maintain something. It's to maintain your awareness, to maintain your consciousness in this moment. Your presence. Now, beneath the story is what I like to call the essence. It's the canvas that you've been painting on. It's the chalkboard that's waiting for your expression. And it doesn't change. It's been the same since the moment that you were born. It was the same before you were born. It'll be the same when you pass away. It's there as a potential. That's why it's always the same, because the potential is always possible in every moment. I remember, this is kind of more in a business sense. I was at a business conference, and the speaker, he was really funny. He said, people come to me all the time and they say, I can't make money. I don't get how everybody else is making money. There's not enough money. And he said, no, you just got to change your perspective. It's really easy. You need to know there's enough money. Just somebody else has it. You just got to go get it from them. And so it's the same idea that there is an infinite potential. And it's actually not that somebody else has it. It's that everybody has it. And that we have the opportunity, the possibility, the potential, the capacity to receive it, to accept it. That's actually the better word right there. Because it's not like it's something we don't have already, but we don't accept that we have it. We've come into these stories that we're born empty, and we have to earn and prove and become worthy of things in order to be given them. But the fact is, you had it all at the very, very beginning. And you start putting layers of stories and conditioning, and you forgot what you already have. I like the analogy that, or maybe not the analogy, but the idea, if you're seeking love, you have an idea of what love is like, at least the love that you're seeking, which means that you've probably experienced it at some point, and because you'll recognize it when you see it, means that it must already be within you. Otherwise, how would you recognize it? And on that same note, what would happen if the things that you're seeking actually aren't what you would recognize? Therefore, why are you trying to go about it with a story? With an expectation it's going to look this way or that way. Because immediately that's blocking you from what's right in front of you. This idea of acceptance is really important, and I share this in all of my talks. There's 3 aspects to what I believe bring you into the heart space. It's acceptance, permission, and expression. Whether it's in my books or in my coaching or in these talks, those 3 I always come back to. Acceptance has to be the first one, and there's a big reason why. Acceptance for me is the recognition of reality as it is in this moment. It doesn't mean being okay with that reality. People don't like the word acceptance because normally when they're told you just need to accept it, it's because it's in a situation they don't like. They're not wanting to be in. They want it to change. And then to have somebody say, you just have to accept it, that's so frustrating. So instead of thinking that it's about being okay with something, it's about recognizing what it is. Because if you don't do that first, then how do you have any power to do anything about it? To allow something to change? If you're ignoring the reality. I often say this metaphor, and the idea is, you're ordering a package to bring it to your home of all the resources, the possibility, the whatever it is that you're asking for, even if it's just clarity. And you go and you seek out the exact thing that you want, and you find it. Maybe it's in a teacher, or in a workshop, or in a book, or in an experience, whatever it is. You find it, and you say, okay, yes, I'm going to commit to that. And so you'll make an investment into it because it takes your time, your energy, same as you guys are here tonight. You've committed. And then when you go to order it so that it comes to your door, and there's that page that says, where's your shipping address? Because you haven't accepted where you're at, you don't know. And so you're like, I don't know, just leave it along the way, I'll find it. We make life so hard for ourselves. You literally, just by accepting in this moment that this is the reality of the moment, you say to everything that's on its way, here I am. Especially when it comes to matters of the heart and love. I was writing just the other day that, the reason we can't find love is because as we run after it, it's like a rainbow. The closer we try to get to it, the further it goes. All we have to do is stop. And then we look, and there's the rainbow. It's not going anywhere anymore. It stands still for us to experience it. But because we try to possess it as something, It's the possession that causes it to slip through our grasp. Same goes with, you must accept that's what gives you the ability to stop for a moment and assess the situation, see what's there. Now after that, the second aspect of permission, very important. So you go from this acceptance and then you go into permission. Now permission, for me, is about putting down the walls, coming into vulnerability, and giving yourself permission to be real. Giving yourself permission to receive, giving yourself permission to open. I'm willing to bet for each of you tonight who said, I'm working on trying to open my heart up. There's also a complementary thought there that says, but I need to do something to get there. I can't just decide. Yes, you can. I have to do something, right? No. So that's the part where you haven't given yourself permission. I love saying this to my coaching clients. They come to me and they go, I've got this dream and I really want to do it and this and that. And I'll say, okay, great. And, well, they're like, yeah, but I haven't done enough education, or I'm too old for that, or this and that. And I go, but you really want to do it? Yeah. And you're going to go for it? Yeah, but I have to do this and this and this and this first. Okay. Or, just a thought, how about you give yourself permission to just do it anyway? Regardless of whether you think you're ready, regardless of whether you think you're worthy, regardless of whether you think you have enough knowledge, experience, and capacity to do it, just do it. See what happens. What's the worst that could happen? You learn from it, and then you learn how to be ready. It brings to mind this image of a staircase. We have these goals or dreams or visions or calling or longing, and it's like it's the top of the mountain, and we're way down at the bottom. We have these stairs to go up. And we think to ourselves, I have to make one giant leap. No, just make one step. You see, often we can see the peak, and if we have accepted, we can see where we're at, but we don't know how we get there. And because it looks daunting and overwhelming, we just don't start. But I can tell you from experience, if you just take the first step, your perspective will change a little bit, and you'll see where the next step is. And if you take that step, then all of a sudden your perspective opens up again, and you see where the next step is. And only when you take each step can you see what's next. Give yourself permission. Because otherwise, you'll never know how to get to the next thing. You'll never know that right around the corner, somebody was ready to just give it to you. In Bali, I go surfing, and I'm just a beginner. And so I get out there, and if it's just the whitewash, I'm happy. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. But then when I go a little further, and it's like, ah! And what I've learned is when strong expression is coming through, and that's especially emotion. When it's coming through us, the best possible way of handling it is to surrender, is to relax. Because if you fight it, it tosses and tumbles you, and you come out with your hair looking all jumbled up and sand in it. It's not fun. It takes weeks to get out. Surrendering, which has a lot to do with this idea of permission, is it's not giving up. I want to make that really clear, because I've been noticing in different dialogues and conversations and interactions I'm having in the world that a lot of people, when I talk about surrender, they look at it as giving up. They look at it as, okay, so you let somebody else take care of it. You give the control somewhere else. It's not about giving away control. It's not about having control. It's about trusting. And in that trust, you realize that everything's connected and life is on your side. That big emotion that's coming up, it's part of you. And so if you can realize that it's part of you, it's easy to surrender. You're just surrendering to yourself. Because otherwise, when you try to seek control to manage and kind of make sure that one thing doesn't come up, you're saying, okay, I want this piece of me not to be. If you come into wholeness with each moment when it comes up, then those kind of things, when that big emotion comes up, it's easy. it's like a little swell, and it goes by. So the question being, how do we deal with jealousy?
Yeah.
We have to first understand love. For me, love is not an object to be exchanged. And yet somehow we've made it that, even subtly. We think to ourselves, I'm going to give you my love. I'm looking for somebody to give me love. That makes it an object, a possession. And possession can be lost. And a possession becomes possessive, which is where jealousy comes in. If instead we look at love not as being a possession or an object of exchange, but rather as a resonance of recognition, then we can never lose it. We're never gaining or moving or exchanging or shifting. It's just there. It's the base. I like to think of it as the ocean in which we're swimming. And then from that, different forms come into play. I used to have a center in San Diego. It was called the Center for Connection, and our slogan was, connection is the significance of life, not the objects. And that's really important because you see, even in a partnership, in a relationship, romantic or business or whatever it is, the other person is just an expression. But what's significant is the connection. Not to them, but the connection itself. Because that connection is what's creating this awareness for you to take notice of something inside you. Have you guys ever heard of sympathetic resonance? Yeah. It's essentially that if you have one thing vibrating at a certain frequency, then something else of the same material or the same make nearby will just begin to vibrate the same way. They do this with violins if one is being strummed, or I don't know what's that called when you... The other one will just begin to vibrate in the same way. Tuning forks work that way too. Sympathetic resonance. It means that if I resonate at a certain frequency, I'm giving you permission to do the same. If I'm in love, not with someone or something, but I'm in love, in the frequency of love, then all of a sudden you've got permission to do the same, not because I'm saying, hey, I'm going to let you feel love. But instead, it's because you see and you go, wow, I hadn't realized that was a possibility, but I'm watching the expression right now and I feel something. There it is. It was there within you the whole time. So we have to understand that before we can even start to play with what jealousy is. Because jealousy is completely around love being an object. Or that connection being about the object, about the form, about the person. If you can make it about the connection, then what you do, and this is where I was saying that acceptance is about opening and permission is about opening to receive, right? Is in the moment that, let's say, a relationship changes, we get stuck looking back and thinking about the connection to the object. And then we fixate on the object, and as the object moves on, we get angry because we're like, well, I want to move on too, but I want to move on with you. What's going on? In the moment that you let go, not by giving up, but by trusting, what you'll do is you'll open your hand because right now it's closed. You'll open your heart because right now the story is closed. And the second you do that, like the instance, another form is going to take its place. It doesn't mean another person. It could be. But another form, and it's going to be an expression of exactly what you're seeking to recognize. Because it's already there. That makes sense? I always visualize, you know those sand timers? When the sand's just dripping away? Think of it with 3 compartments now instead of just 2, and you're the center. And every moment that you release, surrender, allow, the sand is slipping from you, but the sand is coming into you instantaneously at the same time. You are never, ever incomplete. You are whole all the time. But if you hold on to what's already there, then you don't give space for something new. And it's interesting around jealousy. I've played a lot with that myself to see, okay, what's coming up in me. And what I've noted for me is, because there's two elements of jealousy. There's the possessive one, and then there's another one which is about protection. I'll call it jealous of a current partner or an ex-partner or a family member or whatever if I feel that the person they're now with isn't good enough or isn't, I know, terrible, right? Or isn't safe for them or isn't going to be the best benefit for them. And maybe sometimes we'll compare it to myself, be like, oh, that would have been a lot better. Why are they over there with that? You know? But it's a protectiveness. It's not that I want to hold them. It's that I want the best for them. And if I go even deeper, it's that I want the best for me. And I'm seeing the reflection there. And so there's a thought, a story that says, if I can take care of that person, if I can make them happy, then I'll be happy. That's dangerous. Permission, remember I said it was about bringing down the walls. The walls are there as protection. The protections are not just there to protect you, but quite often our minds tell us, no, I'm putting it up to protect them. Either because you think that there's something about you that, might harm them, or that something of your truth that you want to share, you go, oh, but it might hurt their feelings. I don't want to go there. And so we're trying to protect them, but what we're really doing is deceiving them. And if I've learned anything in a year of silence is that the energy never lies. And so even if you're holding back, expressing something, they're sitting there going, what's not being expressed? What's there in the air? I need to know because something's not right. It's sometimes a journey, sometimes it's just a choice. Sometimes it's an awareness and a perspective and like a sudden insight. But no matter what, permission is always instantaneous the moment you choose it. And the choosing of it, here's the kicker, I love this. It's not an effort to choose. Because that's where the expression part comes in. You see, expression's actually about choice, but it's not that we have a choice to do one thing or another thing. It's not that we have two paths and we're trying to figure out which one to go. Do I leave him or do I stay? Do I go for this job or do I go for that job? Do I come to the talk or work on my work? What are the choices? No, those are options. They're different. The only choice that we have in life is, do we surrender or resist the moment? And no matter what, the moment is moving. And so the longer you're resisting, the further away you are going from presence. Because it's like a train. It's off on the tracks already. Think of it this way. You're trying to get on the metro, and you're standing there, and you're trying to make a choice. The train just keeps going. Right? And you might anxiously be like, should I get on? Should I get on? Just get on, find out where it goes. When we surrender, what we do is we give life the opportunity to align with us. And then in that alignment, a clarity comes up. And in that clarity, a strength comes up. Not because of something I've done or something I've proven, but I'm strong as a wholeness. I'm strong as a complete being in this moment. But most of the time what we're doing is we're leaning towards something. Most of the time it's backwards. We're leaning towards what was because we're like, well, I know what it was like over there. It was so good at the beginning. If I could get back to that. And I love when I hear, like sometimes I'll have clients as a couple come to me and they say, look, when we first started, it was beautiful. We want you to help us get back there. I said, I can't do that. They're like, why not? Because I'm not a time traveler. I can't take you back in time. That's gone. You need to accept it. It doesn't mean that something similar of connection, remember it's about connection, not the experience, not the object, but the connection. Something similar is waiting for you ahead. But if you're facing this way the whole time, you don't see it. So the remedy, very simple, you go, turn around. Because most of the time, life is taking us forward, but we're still looking backwards. And it's because we're looking backwards that we're not seeing the new opportunities that are coming into our lives. And it feels like everything's being taken away instead of toward, right? So turn to face the direction in which you're moving. I'll say that again. Turn to face the direction in which you're moving. Because otherwise you're probably stumbling. And, I said this yesterday, take it slow. There's this idea again that you're at the bottom and there's the top and you want to just take one giant leap to get up there. Because you think that up there is the answer. Up there is the feeling you're seeking. Up there is the completion. No. Right here where you're standing. You're whole. You take a step, then you're whole again. In every step, in every moment, in every presence of every instance, you're whole. And you have everything that you were looking for. You just have to be taking notice of it. So those were the three things: the acceptance, permission, expression. Expression, like I said, is really about choice. It's, do I surrender to what is bubbling up and just coming out? Spontaneously, unintentionally, without thought. Have you guys done that? Have you made a choice in the moment and you knew you didn't know what the result was going to be like? You didn't know where it was going to go, what the outcome was going to be. Maybe it was just saying hi to somebody. You saw someone in a cafe, you're like, hi. And you have no idea where it's going to go, but something compelled you and you couldn't help it. It's what I love about traveling is if you go and you don't plan too much, sometimes if you don't plan at all, the most miraculous things and magical things can happen because you gave them space to happen. You weren't looking to achieve something, but you were looking to experience something.
How do you know when to surrender or when to resist?
Always.
Always surrender. Is that the answer?
I love that question. How do you know when to surrender or when to resist? Never resist. Always surrender. Now, I'm talking about to the moment. Not to the expressions of the moment, which might be people or a situation. I'm talking about the moment. And what it really means, it comes into this beautiful little loop of the acceptance, permission, expression, and then right back to acceptance. To surrender is to accept what the moment is so that it can keep moving. Anytime we resist, what we're doing is we're holding on to that instance. And half the time, it's something we don't want, right? We're resisting it because we're like, I don't like what's happening. I'm not going to let it go, though. So always surrender to the moment so that you let it go. That's what surrender really is. It's saying, okay, this came in, I'm going to let it keep moving. And the more you practice this, the more you allow this, the more it starts going, and it never seems like it even stopped. And instead, it just becomes this beautiful flow of life moving through you. It takes a lot of trust. I like to talk about trust because we often think trust similar to having things in our life, having abundance and all these other, and love and an open heart, that we have to earn trust. That we have to be worthy to be trusted, right? To be trustworthy. This is so silly to me. Because no matter what you do, no matter how many ways in which you prove yourself, the choice is always on somebody else whether they trust you. I've had experiences, beautiful lessons for me, where I was being everything that I felt somebody needed. What I didn't know is that in their history, they'd had some traumas, and no matter what I did, it didn't matter because that trauma was projected on me. So trust is not something you become worthy of or that you earn. Trust is another choice of surrender or resist. In this moment, something's coming up, and it's asking me to trust it because it's there. No, I'm not going to trust it. I'm going to act like it's not there. That's what resistance is. That's what not trusting is. To trust is to just go, okay, I'm in this moment, and this is what it is, and I trust that it's evolving, it's moving, it's unfolding. Something, I don't know where it's going, but I trust that it is going somewhere. Here's a great example. Can I tell you guys a story? I was coming back from, where was I? I was in Utah, in the state of Utah in the United States. And I'd been giving these workshops and talks and training, and I was going back and forth a lot. And I needed to get a flight. I think it was at like an 8 a.m. flight, and I needed to be back in San Diego by 10 because at 11 I was supposed to go up in front of about 20,000 people and lead a meditation at a festival. It was very important. So I get to the airport, and then the trainings that I was doing was all about trust and like abundance and manifesting things in life. So I was in that space. I get to the airport, and I look at my watch, and I'm late. And I walk up, just patient. I walk up to the counter, and I hand my passport, all confident, like, yeah, I'm getting on this plane. I'm like 30 minutes late. And he looks at me and goes, you can't check in. You've missed your flight. And I said, just check me in. I'll get to the gate. He's like, no, your plane has left. you, there's no way you can get on the plane. I said, are you sure? And he says, yeah, you've missed your flight. I said, okay. And then I just stood there for a bit. I was just looking at him. And the guy's like, can I help you with something else? I think so. I'm just waiting for it. And I gave it a little bit of time, and he goes, you missed your flight, sir. Would you like to rebook one? I'm like, oh, no, I need to be there in San Diego by this time. I think the next flight, not for a few hours, right? He's like, yeah. Okay. Stood there. He goes, sir, I can't do anything for you. It's like, I'm waiting. And he goes, unless you can take a later flight. I said, no, I can't take a later flight. There's 20,000 people waiting for me. He goes, what? And I explained it to him, and he goes, you should be freaking out right now. I said, nah, I know I'm going to get there. He goes, but how are you there's no, hold on. And he goes on the computer, and he starts typing something. I'm just standing there going, trust, I know, I'm going to get there. Type something up, and he goes, okay, here's what I've done. The airline down the way is a sister company with us. I've just gone into their back end, and I've booked you on their flight. We just transferred it, so you don't have to pay anything. But just don't say anything. Just run over there and book in and get your boarding pass. So, thank you. You're in. Here's the thing. What we expect of life is what life gives us. Sometimes we can expect extraordinary things, but mind you, we expect them not with an urgency, not with a need, really important, and not with a pressure, because if we say, or let me change the word, entitlement. We can expect of life but do not feel entitled. If I sat there and I was like, you need to get me on this next flight, you need to get me there, that's entitlement. You wouldn't have helped. But I just expected, I didn't know if it was going to be him. I didn't know if somebody was going to walk up with a van and say, hey, you want to go? I didn't know if a time traveler was going to appear and be like, come. And we'd go. I had no idea what was going to happen, but I just trusted that life was going to present something if I slowed down enough, trusted that it was going to happen, and kept my eyes open.
Kind of lost it. So it's good to hear, but it's really strange that it really feels like I've lost it. Because maybe 9-10 years ago, I always had that feeling, and life was very easy for me. And things occurred when I didn't even know how did that happen. But it was quite good. But I've lost it.
And if I tell you that you are infinite potential, do you think you can lose anything? You can cover it up, though.
Yeah.
You can forget that it's there. You can think that it's gone because you don't see it. All you have to do is bring it back up. It's like, have you ever gone through some old clothes, or even just you put on a pair of jeans one day and you reach in and it's $20 in there and you're like, yes! Forgot about that. It was there the whole time. It was just sitting in your pocket waiting for you to reach in again. But most of the time, because we think that we have to get something again from outside, we have to get back to something, we don't realize all we have to do is reach in, and it's sitting there waiting for us. All the time.
It's funny because in all part of my life, I'm like, yeah, it will go. I quit my job one day trust my path is the right way, but when it comes to the male company, I don't trust it. I don't trust that he will appear. It's just that's one thing, and it's really annoying because I want to trust that someday it will happen, but because I do it with everything else.
Can I ask you a question?
I'm not sure.
Yes.
I call this, by the way, laser coaching on the spot. I love doing this. Are you ready? Okay. What are you not feeling worthy of?
Being loved.
And what if I told you that it's not about being loved, it's about being love?
You just told that before, so. But I'm telling myself every day, I love myself, and what I give is pure love, and I don't expect any love coming back because it will come
Yeah.
from the universe.
As an object.
No.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, never comes someone.
That's why I said it's not about being loved or loving. Be love. Be it. Because in that, it's not an object anymore. It is the essence of how you are presenting and showing up. And when you do that, then you take notice of what's been there the whole time around you. I'll give you a different example. When I was back in San Diego and I was doing a lot of my massage training, I was at the school, and I remember walking into a room one day. It was for a nutrition class or something. And I walked in, and human nature is, you walk in, you kind of scan the room to see who's attractive. And you're like, well, am I sitting over next to you? Or, oh, maybe next to you. And there was a few different women in there that I found attractive. But none of the seats were open near them. So I sat down in the front and took the class. By the end of the day, all three of those women at some point had come to me to interact. And it made me question and wonder. So I went to my mom because I knew she'd be really bluntly honest. I said, Mom, I don't regard myself as being this extraordinarily attractive man, but I was in this class, and the three women I found attractive all came up to me. I didn't have to do anything. And she goes, yeah. If you found them attractive, it's because you're resonating on the same frequency. So of course they find you attractive too. You're both just standing out in the room. It has nothing to do with physical attraction or anything else or what I've done or worthiness. It's just we're showing up at the same place. That's why I immediately asked you, where are you at with yourself? Fear comes in because there's a thought, well, if I don't need anyone, then nobody will be there. It's not true. There's a big difference between needing something, someone, somewhere, whatever it is, and having it. When we need it, we're normally chasing after it. We're normally longing when it's not there. We're in suffering when we're separate from it. But when we realize we don't need it, then we can for the first time appreciate it. Then we can for the first time receive it without any restrictions or fine print. Instead, we just allow stuff to come into our lives, and we're not holding on to it in any way. We don't need to. Because in that moment, we're fully present to it. Because we go, wow, this is beautiful. Oh, look, it's gone. Oh, look, something else came in. Okay, great. And that's gone. I'm not by myself, but I'm good.
But that's a really different concept than like what I've been used to in my life.
Yeah.
After 6 years of, but it's both wonderful and terrifying.
Yeah. Embrace the fear. When I say that, I don't mean like step into what you're actually afraid of.
No.
What I'm saying is step into feeling what's actually coming up, because fear is always about the unknown. So it's like there's void. And as long as we don't step into it, it's still a void, and we don't know what it is. But if we actually step into it, then we're like, oh, it's me. Okay. And then the fear is gone. So when I say embrace the fear, what I'm really saying is embrace the sensation of wholeness, the sensation of completion, the sensation of fulfillment. And don't worry what comes next. Be curious about it. So we came into this conversation with the idea that some of you have a closed heart. And now you all smile when I say that because they're like, that's silly. How can you close your heart? All you can have is a story. And it's not about replacing the story with something else, but rather it's just be with the story in acceptance, and the story goes because that's its nature. It's on its way out. It's only your investigation of it to understand it that holds it in its place. So all you have to do is be curious of what comes next. Be curious of this moment and what else is in it. And let each element come into your, let's say, visual field, and then go. I love the way Osho puts it. He describes something about, a tree next to a river is sitting there, and as the wind comes and rustles its leaves, and it feels so good. And then it continues. And whereas the stream comes and it nourishes its roots, and then it goes. The tree does not go, where are you going? You have given me such pleasure to leave. No, it knows that the stream is always running, the wind is always blowing. So I leave you all with the invitation to stand as trees, breathe, be curious, reach up into the sky, and let your leaves blossom into flowers. Thank you.